Hey y'all, and welcome back to A Lot to Say. I know that it has been too long. It's been about 2 months too long since I've sat down and talked to y'all. But honestly, I get so caught up in perfectionism. I get so caught up in my head. I get so caught up in wanting to have this perfect product to show the world that nobody sees anything at all. So I'm pushing past that this month, the month of May. I am really pushing myself to show up consistently on my platforms. And while it may look consistent to some of you all out there, like I know that I can create better systems so that I can show up even when I don't have the capacity to show up. So, all of that to say, I'm showing up today despite feeling like I'm not ready. Obviously, my hair is not done. Um, and I'm not super polished and I'm nervous, but here we are, and welcome to A Lot to Say. And I'm your host, Teryn Denae. Okay, so we are going to jump right into our mindful moments. This week, I attended a movie screening for a documentary called A is for Art. A former colleague of mine invited me, and she is a powerhouse in her own right. If you're ever looking for someone to curate or stage events, she is the person. And I will make sure to drop her contact information here. But this event was held at the Trap Music Museum, and I was so inspired to be a creative in Atlanta, to be a creative from Atlanta, um, and to be able to create and share space with other creators during what they're calling this renaissance of creativeness here in Atlanta, here in the South. And I'm happy to be a part of that. And so that is why I'm sitting my butt down and talking to y'all and recording, um, because the artist is known by their works. And so if y'all never see the work, what are we really doing here? So, this mindful moments for this week, I want you to think about when was the last time that you did something creative? What was that? Were you dancing? Were you planting? Were you scrapbooking? Were you making herbal mixes? Um, when was the last time that you did that? And what was it? I really want you to think about it in detail. If you are a journaler, I want you to write this down as a writing prompt. If you are more of a video journaler, take a video of yourself talking about it, or just take a moment right now, ground yourself, and really lean into this exercise with no writing, no nothing, just straight vibes, okay? Next, how did you feel before you did the creative activity? Right? Like for me, I know a lot of times before I do creative work, sometimes I can be feeling really anxious, or I can be feeling really wound up, or like um, overwhelmed. Like with so much stuff going on in the world, it's really easy to feel overwhelmed and bogged down. And leaning into creativity and leaning into my creativeness allows for me to release. It allows for me to kind of work through some of my thoughts and my feelings. Um, and the medium that I choose to do that is through writing and through publishing and through videos and through showing up at community events. That is how I share and insert my creativeness into the world. Next on the prompt, how did you feel after you spent that time being creative? Did you feel relieved? Did you feel like you had a release of some sort? Um, and did you do that activity alone? Did you do it with other people? Who were those people? Would you choose those same people again? Would you do it alone the next time? Where were you when you did the creative activity? Were you at a park? Were you at home? Were you in your backyard? Um, and as you're thinking of all those things, I also want you to think ahead a little bit. And I want you to think about when you plan to create something again. So for me, this week, something creative I did was going to the movie screening. I went alone. Um, I felt really cute. I had on like a little tulle dress skirt situation and like a little bustier graphic tee vibe with the Atlanta hat. And I was like, Like, this is cute. This is a little after work moment. They had my favorite drinks, French 75. The music was really good, and I was at the Trap Music Museum. Um, I would definitely do this again. I would do it with other people. I would do it by myself. I really enjoy the solo creative dates just because they allow for me to get to know myself, to kind of put myself out there, to try different things and get me outside of my comfort zone. And when I plan to create something again, as we speak right now, I am creating. Um, I am sharing some thoughts on my creative process, my creative journey. I'm sharing the influence that other artists and creatives have on me by making me literally sit down and show up in front of this camera. So I'm inspired by those who are constantly showing up and putting out the work. Um, and creating out loud with us. So, shout out to y'all. I wanted to thank you for taking this moment to be mindful, to think of a time where you were creative, to think of how it made you feel before and afterwards. Who were you with when you were creative? What did you create? All of those things I want you to be thinking about, and I want you to keep with you as we head into our next segment, which y'all already know what it is. All right, stay mindful. Okay, so we are going to get into politically speaking. If you don't have something to drink, you probably want to get you a little beverage, tea, water, whatever you want. Go ahead and do that. Um, so this is going to be super informal. I'm not super polished, but I have been saving different links that I include in my newsletter. If you are not subscribed to our email list, be sure to subscribe. We have a weekly-ish newsletter that goes out that provides, again, mindful moments. It provides politically speaking, different political things that are going on across the nation. Some pop culture things are in there, and it includes radical reads and then resources like food banks, where you can register to vote, where you can find out what's on your ballot. All those things are included in my newsletter. And so you don't want to miss it. Make sure that you are subscribed. You can go to I told you so, ITOLDYASO.org, and go ahead and sign up for that email list. You don't want to miss all the good information that comes out of it. And if you're already subscribed, go ahead and share it with a friend so that they too can subscribe. Okay, so let's hop into it. For me, politically speaking, I feel a responsibility as a lawyer, as a journalist, as a Black Southern woman, as a part of the 95% of women who show up in our elections. I feel a responsibility as Black independent media to be a truth teller. And so that's what I'm gonna do on this platform. But a lot of times it can feel so overwhelming when we're thinking about the political scape. It can feel hopeless. It can feel like so many things are going wrong. There's no way that I could show up and make a difference. And so I want to kick all of that out the window. I want to ground us in a space of being knowledgeable and empowered to use that information to take action in our communities, which is what this platform is all about. It's about radically loving ourselves and transforming our communities at the same time. So boom, after that whole spiel, let's get into it. So it is election season all over the United States. In addition to election season, we are also in the midst of a little bit of global chaos. Um, Elections are taking place all over the country. I am here in Georgia. I probably will be tagging in my friends who are in other states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Alabama. I will be Texas. I will be tapping in those people just to tell y'all a little bit more personally what's going on in those states, and of course to provide y'all with resources to back it up. But I want to take a moment, come in a little closer, and really encourage you all to exercise your right to vote. Um, I know every year we're like, oh, this is the most important election of our lifetime, but I don't know if y'all are watching the news, if y'all are on social media, but our rights are literally being stripped away day by day. And I don't say that in a way to put fear in you, but I do say it in a way where we should be urgent and intentional about how we are moving in our communities. And so, election season, um, primaries are going on. If you are not registered, go ahead and go to your Secretary of State's website. You can literally type in Secretary of State in whatever state you're in: Georgia, Louisiana, Alabama, Pennsylvania. You can do that and it will come up. When there usually is like an election tab, which is usually at the top on the little top bar there. Click that. When you click that, you can find out if you're registered. You can find out things like your polling place. This is just giving you a government resource that is pretty consistent across the board. One of my favorite sources is ballotpedia.org. With that, I want you to go on there. I want y'all to see who's on the ballot, who's running for who's running for what. There are lots of different races and elections going on. We have governor seats, we have Senate seats. Um, I'm like, we have all these seats. Things are wide open, and there is so much room for us to show up. And it's important for us to really be electing these local officials and these statewide officials, because this is who is representing us as a whole um, in Washington and DC. This is who is the people that we are selecting now. Okay. The people that y'all are seeing the signs for all over your neighborhood, that is how we are getting resources allocated to our communities. That is how we are selecting the people, hiring the people who will advocate for us in DC. And it is so important just to kind of familiarize yourself with who the people are, a little bit about what they're about. And I think I was gonna do a separate episode on that so that you can um, really just feel equipped to do a little bit of research. Like, it's not too much homework. And my parents tell me all the time, they're like so not interested in doing the research. They would prefer someone like me just tell them straight up, you know, who's who, what's what. But I think there is a power in just knowing where you can go to find out who people are and what they're about. Simple Google searches are very powerful. Everything on Google is not true. However, comma, there's some truth out there, and I definitely just advise y'all to like check out people, investigate who people are, and really see what they're about. See where the money that's funding them is coming from. See the policies if they already have been elected. See the things that they have stood behind and supported, voted against, or for. Those are things that are very important and critical as we move forward in this political scape in this political state. I don't know. Very important. Um, then I'm gonna pull up just where I've been sending myself some little links. So that's my heavy piece. I also briefly today wanted to sit and talk about the new Supreme Court ruling, and what that means and what that looks like for us as Black folks, as Southern folks, as people across the country who are threatening the powers that be, by simply showing up, by exercising our rights. And we have to continue to do that. So I'm going to read a little something from the Congressional Black Caucus about what this new Supreme Court ruling means. Um, I want to drop all this case law and I want to give y'all all these constitutional sections and places that you can go and look at it. And I will probably include that in the description. But for now, I'm going to lean on what the Congressional Black Caucus has provided, and I'm going to read from it, and I want y'all to walk with me. So take a sip. Okay, so one major thing that this ruling, I think it's Callais, Let me see, Callias versus Louisiana. A little bit of background. I really can't multitask. I'm not gonna hold y'all. I'm not about to try to uh, give y'all some background and pull up direct resources at the same time. Not gonna do it. But there's a 92-page document from the Supreme Court of the United States, Louisiana versus Callais. I don't know. Um, but this is all about new congressional maps. It's about unconstitutionality. It's about gerrymandering, which can be partisan or it can be racial. Again, I will go into the details and definitions of all these things in another video, but I had to talk about this because I'm a political black girl and I think it's important for us to know. So before I read the Congressional Black Caucus, I am on ACLU.org and I am reading just a quick few excerpts that may summarize it in a way that is digestible. But the title, Supreme Court Strikes Down Louisiana Map and Destroys Key Voting Rights Act Provision. All right, on April 29th, the Supreme Court struck down Louisiana's congressional map and they issued a ruling that completely wipes out Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which opens the door for other states to enact discriminatory maps with little to no recourse or consequences. And this is where I wanted to read y'all specifically Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, but hopefully I'll include a little blurb of it here. Section 2 has long served as the primary nationwide protection against discriminatory voting. And why all of this is so urgent and important, we haven't seen a time politically as like this, in my opinion, since post-Civil War, around the Reconstruction era. That is where we got our the Civil War amendments, 13th, 14th, 15th amendments, all of that. And then black men gained the right to vote. Um, White women later in the 20s, 13th, 20s, gained the right to vote. And then black women, we gained the right to vote in the 60s. And now here we are in 2026, and we're back, it feels like, at 1865-ish. Like, Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act really helped to make sure that racial discrimination in practice, there was some accountability, okay? Wiping it out, the Supreme Court has not allowed for a leveling of the playing field here, where we have seen extremely long lines. People are, when we talk about voter suppression in real time, people often immediately, again, go back to the civil rights era, the 50s and 60s of, um, having to say the preamble out loud or having to count how many marbles are in a jar. Um, and yes, those are voter suppression tactics, but voter suppression in real time in this day looks like long lines. It looks like hours changing for voting sites. It looks like just not making it easily accessible to find out who's on the ballot, what's on the ballot, what the amendments on the ballots mean. That is what voter suppression looks like. And over the years, I have fought in the streets. I have gone to law school and been a part of clinics and journals that advocate and fight against voter suppression and advocate for voting rights for all Americans. Um, and so, honestly, I am taken aback. I study these things and I watch it happen in real time. And even as I watch and study and see it happening, I am shocked that this is the world that we are living in. But again, I will include all of these things in the comment section in the links. But let me give y'all the 4 points on what this ruling looks like and means per the Congressional Black Caucus. So, one, majority Black districts can be eliminated. So, states can now redraw congressional maps to break up Black voting communities. I'm going to leave that there. Two, discriminatory maps cannot be challenged the same way. And so, this ruling strips the legal tools that communities have relied on to fight against racist redistricting in courts. And so that leaves Black folks, that leaves brown folks with fewer protections than they had at any point since Jim Crow. Okay. Three, Congress, not your community, Congress will now choose your representatives. And no, no, Congress, come here. Soji wants to join. She's upset too. So Congress, not your community, will choose your representative. And so the fundamental promise of democracy is broken. We're supposed to have a vote in who makes up our government. Like, that is something that us as citizens are supposed to be able to do. But this new ruling takes some of that power away from citizens and allows for representatives instead to make decisions on behalf of us without actually listening to what the people want. I don't know if that makes sense to y'all, but again, I'm going to continue to take a deep dive on this in more videos for time's sake. I'm gonna wrap it on up. Lastly, the legislative fixed the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. Here, the Congressional Black Caucus is demanding an immediate vote on the John Lewis Voting Rights Act to restore federal oversight of discriminatory election laws and to protect Black voters nationwide. Cool. Not cool, but okay. That's giving us some groundwork. Things that we can do. Voting is a part of the process. If you are not able to vote, meaning you're not registered, if it is a citizenship issue, if it is a carceral state issue, also reach out to me because you may be able to vote depending on which state that you're in. Even if you are incarcerated, even if you have been incarcerated, there are rules and regulations in each state. So do not let that be a barrier. Reach out to a community member, and let's find out, where you stand. Since this ruling was made, several states have already are actively working to make sure that this is also applicable in their states. And this is not just southern states. And so, be on notice. We are going to continue to work together to strategize. It definitely is going to take us as a community talking about these things and pulling each other in and advocating, just to ensure that we continue to have some kind of power in our communities and choice and autonomy in our lives, and where money and resources go in our communities. Another sidebar here, when we're looking at congressional maps and we're looking at redistricting, things like the census, which happen every 10 years, play a huge role in this. The people that we elect as our representatives play a huge role in this. And here in Georgia, like, there are Supreme Court seats that are open for the Supreme Court of Georgia. Each state has a Supreme Court. There are different branches of government, whole nother video. There's things that we can do. This is definitely something urgent, and we should definitely be alarmed and concerned. But as history has shown, this is not the first time that this has happened. And luckily, we have kind of a playbook that we can work from and build upon as we head into these new unprecedented times. And so, with that, I encourage you all to check your voter registration. I encourage you to register a neighbor, and past that, start creating your election day plans. Early voting here in Georgia has already started, and I think that it continues through May 17th. Do not quote me on that, but early voting is available in a lot of states. even when there is not early voting provided or available in your state, you can still create your election day plan. So are you going to vote before work? Are you going to vote after work? Are you going to vote on your lunch? Do you know where your voting poll, your voting, do you know your location is where you're supposed to go and vote? Do you have your documents that you need? So, like identification or passport. Um, do you have a ride to the polls? Are you carpooling? These are all different things that we can do to strategize to make sure that not only are we registered to vote, but that we are going out to vote for each and every election. It is super, 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 super important. And with that, I'm going to end today's Politically Speaking. Um, on that note, I know that that was a rant. I know that it was all over the place. I hope that you can take some pieces of it and make it work together for your good. All right. Headed on to the next segment, y'all. Okay, y'all, this is going to be our last part of the show since I went on a little longer than I needed to for this time. Um, I'm gonna keep it real brief with y'all for Radical Reads as a book lover. All right, so now we are at our Radical Read segment. As a book lover and a future bookstore owner, I absolutely love spending time in the books. I saw a thing today that was like, I enjoy books more than I enjoy people. I enjoy people. People are cool, but I really enjoy books. I really enjoy reading. I really enjoy um, taking in information, and honestly I enjoy sharing that information. So back to my intention for the month of May, I'm sharing the information that I am taking in and that I'm writing down and I'm making note of. I'm sharing it with y'all. So if you have not joined the Radical Reads channel over on my Instagram, there I share books that I enjoy by other writers and readers. There are lots of book lists, there are book suggestions. um, and a book that I have been reading for about a year now is The Artist's Way. Love this book. As again, as a creative, um, I struggle to see myself as an artist. I struggle to see myself and show up as a creative, even though literally I am that. Um, so I have a video up on my YouTube where I'm discussing one of the chapters of The Artist's Way. But this week's chapter that I am rereading, that I made myself imagine and recover and rediscover, is called Recovering a Sense of Abundance. Um, I think that's so powerful, like seeing creativity as God flowing through you, seeing creativity as a means of uh, sharing your thoughts and sharing your opinions and just showing your very specific perspective on the world, um, and understanding that you deserve to create and live and create from an abundant place, from a place where you don't limit yourself, from a place literally like pure imagination. I'm always thinking about Black radical thought and Black radical imagination. Um, and so this chapter really helps me to unpack that. I'm looking at where I'm spending my money. Um, Food. I'm spending my money on food, and it's showing. I'm spending my money on events and arts, and so that is a value area of mine. Um, and then just general expenses. Those are areas where my money is being spent. And again, I want to operate and shift to a mindset of abundance, um, and of no lack. And so this chapter really helps me to work through my own stuff, work through my own lack mindset, work through my own insecurities, and to pinpoint some areas where I can improve and dive deeper into and allow myself the imagination to dream bigger. So if you have not got The Artist's Way, I highly recommend that you grab it. Again, I have a couple videos up on my YouTube where I am sharing my thoughts and opinions on the different chapters. This is a book that Dochi shared that she used throughout her artist development, and I highly recommend it to all artists and all creatives and spiritual beings, if you will. Um, Great read. And that concludes today's Radical Reads. If you all are reading anything interesting, please drop it in the comments. Please send it over in our Radical Reads channel on Instagram. I would love to hear and see what's on your bookshelves, what's on your um, table sides, what's on your tabletops. I wanna hear and read all about it. What articles are interesting you? Um, Books, movies, all those things go in this category. And so, thank y'all for coming to today's episode of A Lot to Say. I know that it was a lot of rambling and a bit all over the place. But I kind of wanted to be, I wanted it to be a little rough on the edges. I didn't want to plan out every single piece. I wanted to hit the segments, and I wanted to kind of just talk freely, allow myself to be free in this space. So thank y'all for riding with me on this journey, on this episode. Because again, I know that it was a little bit all over the place, but I appreciate y'all for taking the time. Please make sure that you are subscribed to this channel. If you are not signed up for my email list over at itoldyaso.org, make sure to do that. And I will see y'all next time. Bye.